We'll start the meeting with a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first order of business for tonight is to choose the chairman for 2018. So I'm going to open it up for discussion and for someone to make a motion.
I make a motion, we make Commissioner Peter Incledon as the chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners for the year of 2018.
I'll second that.
Discussion, my own personal preference would be for Mr. Rabin to be chairman, just because he was more calming during his first year on the board, and calming is what we could use. So I would like to, I would make a motion for Mr. Rabin. I'm sure it's not going to carry the day, but that would be my
I
point.
appreciate that, but I would decline.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take a roll. Commissioner Roche?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Incledon?
Aye.
Commissioner Winter?
No.
Okay,
Carries.
all right.
Okay.
My work here is done.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jamie. You did that very well. You got a lot of practice this week.
Edit out the move changes. Thank you,
Congratulations,
Chief.
Peter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
We do? This is not normal. Usually takes about 3 or 4 meetings.
Oh, well, very, very efficient. Thank you, Chief. Yeah?
Okay, we'll get rolling now with the reorg. First off, I'd like to say thank you to those of you who voted for me. I appreciate your confidence, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have a great year. The first thing I'd like to do tonight is introduce our new commissioner, Tom Roach. Tom was elected in December to serve a 5-year term. Tom has been an Eastchester resident for the past 20 years. He is a retired 25-year veteran of the New York City Fire Department. He retired as a captain. Tom's been involved in local civic and community organizations over the years. He has lived in Eastchester, and now he's going to help us with the administration of the Eastchester Fire District. So we're very pleased to have you on board.
Thank you, Peter.
Welcome aboard, Tom.
Thank you.
Welcome.
The next order of business is going to be to pick a deputy chairman. This person is going to serve in my absence. If I can't make a meeting, they'll run the meeting. And if I'm unavailable to fulfill my role for any reason, they'll step in. I'll open it up for discussion, but I would be the first one to kind of start the discussion by saying that I would have interest in Stu serving as deputy chairman. I've gotten to know Stu pretty well over the last year, the opportunity to work with him on a number of issues. I believe we've worked very well together. I also believe Stu has the time, the desire, the skills, and the temperament, which I'll agree with Dennis on that, to run things in my absence, and would propose that he serve as deputy chairman.
I would second that motion, or make a motion to that effect.
Okay? Anything else? All right, so let's poll the board.
So you'll make the motion and I'll second it.
Yes.
Okay, poll the board, start with Mr. H. Order down.
Dennis?
And you want to start with Mr. Roach, and then you go by the order of time served on the board, in reverse.
I don't think that was a practice that we had in the past, but that's fine. Commissioner Roach.
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin.
Aye.
Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
And I will say aye.
Yeah, we do that just on the kind of stuff that counts.
Okay.
When we stop paying bills, you don't care.
I hear you. We didn't do it historically, so, okay. Next order of business is to appoint the Fire District Treasurer and Secretary. just to let everybody know, both of these are part-time positions, paid at an hourly rate. The reappointments are going to be made under the same terms. I'll read the details, but just to let everyone know that for tonight's purposes, we're going to reappoint these two people at the same terms as last year. However, I will add that we have discussed this, and the board intends to revisit the hourly compensation of our treasurer in the next month or two. So there may be more to say on that, but for tonight, we're going to continue. So the first motion is to appoint, well, let me back up for a second. Jamie Hedstrom is our current treasurer. Jamie has been with the EFD since 2016. She has a bachelor's degree in accounting and a master's degree in taxation. She's also a CPA. Jamie's done a terrific job, and I think we're all unanimous in that we're extremely happy with what she's done since she's kind of taken over that position. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Jamie Hedstrom, CPA, MST, to the position of Fire District Treasurer. Let me get all the of the Eastchester Fire District until December 31st, 2018, at the rate of $63 per hour. The position also has pension eligibility, yes, health care insurance, per night shift rules and requirements, holidays, unpaid, sick leave as required by law, sick leave incentive, none, hours, approximately 17 hours per week, longevity, none, personal days, none, vacation, 2 weeks paid at the 17-hour per week rate. Overtime is required by law. Stu made the motion.
I would,
Someone want to second it?
Second.
Okay.
I would concur in everything Peter says. Jamie's been spectacular to work with.
Okay. I think this is an easy one, so I'll pull the board in order. Stu?
yes.
Anthony?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Dennis?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay, great, motion carries. Lisa Gutierrez is the current secretary to the Board of Fire Commissioners. Lisa has been with the EFD since October 2017. She has a BA in criminal justice and worked for over 12 years as an investigator, most recently with the MTA. Lisa joined us under difficult circumstances in that we were without a secretary for almost 9 months, so she had a lot of catching up to do. Lisa's done a great job since she's joined the department, and I would also like to thank her again and commend her on the fine job she did handling the election this past year. With really no background or knowledge, she really kind of got up to speed quickly and did a great job. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Gutierrez to the position of Secretary to the Board of Fire Commissioners for the year 2018 at an hourly rate of $30 per hour. The position also has pension eligibility, yes, health care insurance, per night shift rules and requirements, holidays, unpaid, sick leave as required by law, sick leave incentive, none, hours, 20 hours per week, longevity, none, personal days, none, vacation, 2 weeks paid at the 20 hours per week, overtime as required by law. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Poll the board. Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'll say aye. Dennis?
Aye.
And Tom is aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, miscellaneous appointments. There are a number of appointments we have to make for different things. One would be a FOIL and public information officer. Historically, that's fallen to the secretary. So I'm proposing that Lisa is again, or is appointed our FOIL officer. An appeals officer, which is typically the chief of department, which is Brian. And then a workplace violence contact person. Brian would be the first contact there, and then the chairman of the board is typically the second contact, would be me. So I would make a motion to accept those appointments.
Second.
And the council's always available in the contact for the workplace violence as well.
Okay. So me, Anthony, Stu,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
I'm an aye, Dennis is an aye, and Tom is an aye. Okay. I would also like to mention, we started doing this, I know we did it last year, I don't know if we did it the year before, but we, each year for the last 2 years, send out the department's code of ethics to all the commissioners and ask that they certify that they have read them. I've received that certification from Stu, Anthony, and Tom, and I'm confident, Dennis, that you've read those.
Yeah, I read the Code of Ethics the other night again.
Okay, so it's just a point that I'd like to make. We are going to discuss the Code of Ethics more later in the regular session, so there'll be more to say on that. Next up is committee assignments.
Just as a note, we want to post the workplace violence policy in every firehouse. It's an annual requirement,
Okay,
just so that the chief can.
duly noted.
If we
Chief?
post it, and we have to do training as for PESH, we have to do annual workplace violence training, which we'll have done through PERMA. Our workers' comp insurance will provide that training.
Okay, excellent. We have a number of committees that we form every year. You know, the people who are on these committees typically act as the point person, but it's usually been, you know, generally accepted that even if you're not on a committee and you want to contribute, there's typically a way for people to get involved and help. So I've kind of gone through and put together my own thoughts on who should serve on which committees, and I'll throw this out there, and then perhaps we can have a discussion and see what people think. So as far as career firefighters, I was proposing Tom and Dennis. On House and Apparatus, I'm proposing myself and Stu. On Budget and Finance, I'm proposing Dennis and Stu. On Health and Wellness, must be the chairman, must be one of the members, and I'm proposing myself and Anthony. And on the Volunteer Firefighters Committee, I'm proposing Anthony and Tom. Does anyone?
The only comment I would have, after looking at those committees, the volunteer committee is really, it's there in the grid book, I guess, but it really doesn't have any real function. In House and Apparatus, we have a lot of stuff going on with House and Apparatus. We just do. Between buying fire trucks and fixing houses probably is 80% of what's going to happen here. So, and it's a legacy thing that happened around House and Apparatus as the same committee. And volunteer, we know, is a non-existing committee. So we may want to split the House and Apparatus and keep those 5 committees, because that matches the board well then, if you'll have 5 committees to match the 5. And then if somebody wants to do volunteer, that's fine, but I don't see volunteer taking more than any time whatsoever for somebody on the volunteer committee.
Like I said, you know, we've had these committees. I agree that some are more active than others. There's no question about that. But again, if you're on a committee that perhaps is less active and you have some time and you can contribute and help out on one of the other ones, I'm sure the people, the 2 leads on the committee would welcome the help. So I would be in favor of keeping the committees as I've
I have
comprised
no
them.
problem with that either.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to be working together. I mean, I have no problem.
Yeah, the budget and finance is usually a September, October thing.
Yeah.
I think I have travel plans pretty much September, October, but we'll see.
Could always have someone fill in.
Yeah. I mean, we're all going to be working on the budget
Okay.
as usual anyway.
Can,
Stu, I'm fine the way it
we
is.
have a motion to
Yeah, I'll make
accept
a
this?
motion to accept it,
Okay.
absolutely.
Anthony?
Second.
Okay, poll the board. Stu?
Yes.
Anthony?
Aye.
I say aye. Dennis?
Aye.
And Tom? Okay. Motion carries. I'm going to leave that to last. Okay, next up is the Fire District Auditor, BST and Company. We are in the last year of a 5-year agreement with BSD to perform our annual audit. By law, we will need to go out with an RFP later this year for auditing services for the next 5 years. It's an RFP, but because it's consulting services, we're not required to pick the lowest bid for the project. Just as an FYI, we're quite happy with BST, but by law, we have to go back out with an RFP. BST is a highly regarded government auditing firm headquartered in Albany, New York. The district has been happy with their services and finds them to be professional and responsive. Most of this is coming from our treasurer. I mean, certainly others have a positive view of this firm as well, but our treasurer has worked extensively with them, is happy with them. So there really is no appointment. It's just, you know, it is an appointment, but it's continued as part of a 5-year relationship that we have. So I'll make a motion to appoint BST and Company as Fire District Auditor for fiscal year 2017. 2017 audit is done in 2018. per the term of the existing agreement, which calls for a fee of $17,000 for the 2017 audit.
I'll second it if somebody hasn't.
Okay, I'll make the motion, Dennis seconds it, and I'll pull the board. Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dennis is?
Aye.
Okay, Tom?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, next up is Fire District Physician. Dr. Lokesh Reddy is currently the department physician. He's board certified in internal medicine and has staff privileges at Lawrence Hospital and White Plains Medical Center and offices in Eastchester. Our current agreement with Dr. Reddy is on a rolling month-to-month basis at $3,000 per month. I think I would look to reappoint Dr. Reddy on a rolling month-to-month basis. We have had some issues, concerns in the past with issues with sick calls and the responsiveness of the doctor and getting people in to see him. I do think that this is something that we monitor on a regular basis, and there have been times where it's ebbed and flows, and we have some concerns, and then we think everything is kind of happening as it should be. I would say that we are on a month-to-month basis, and my feeling is we should reappoint Dr. Reddy on that basis.
I'll second it.
Okay. So who's making the motion?
I'll make the motion, and Mr.
Okay.
Laurie can second it if you want to go that way.
Yep. All right.
And I think everybody on the board, Tom's new here, but would agree with Peter that we've never been able to resolve the sick leave doctor issue, visit issue. It's just not easy to fix.
Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
I'm an aye.
Tom? Okay, motion carries. Fire District Chaplains. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Reverend Carl Maiello from the Good Shepherd Church and Father Paul Waddell from the Immaculate Conception Church as Fire District Chaplains for the year 2018.
I'll make the motion to accept it.
Okay,
And I'll second it.
okay, poll the board. Stu? Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Tom?
Aye.
And Dennis?
And we thank the
It's an aye.
chaplains and the Reverend Maiello does a super job, as all the firemen know. They see him often at fire scenes.
Okay, Fire District Insurance Broker. Our current broker is Arthur Gallagher. Arthur Gallagher is a top 5 U.S. insurance broker with over $2.5 billion in brokerage revenue. I have found our broker of record with Arthur Gallagher to be knowledgeable and proactive in advice to the EFD, not last year, but the prior year. We went through our policies, reviewed it. I was very involved in that. I thought they were, really, just very knowledgeable and very helpful in suggesting changes that we could make to our policy that would ultimately save the department money. I will say this, I am the president of the cooperative in which I live in Bronxville. We have hired Arthur Gallagher as our insurance broker, so I'm going to abstain from voting on this. But that said, I'll put that out there if
I'll
anyone
make a
listens.
motion to accept him for our broker.
Yeah, I'll second, sure.
Okay, so we got Anthony and Stu. Poll the board.
Aye.
Anthony, aye.
Aye.
Stu, aye.
Aye.
All right, we have ayes all along, and I'm an abstain. Okay. Fire District Newspaper of Record, proposing we make a motion to appoint the Journal News. Newspaper of Record, this is where we basically post our legal notices. So, for example, tonight we had to put out a meeting notice of our reorg meeting. We posted it in the Journal News. If we do an RFP, we post them in the Journal News. It's the local paper with the most reach that gets most of the lower Hudson Valley. I think it's the appropriate newspaper, and I will make the motion that we reappoint them as our Fire District
If I can
newspaper.
just make a comment on that before we do that. We use the Journal News because it's a paid subscription newspaper. It's not a free newspaper. And people wonder why you don't use the Town Report or the Eastchester Record. Both of those
Just the
papers,
record's no longer.
or the Eastchester, the things that are out front here in the hallway. A free newspaper does not qualify as a paper of record. I know there's other local municipalities in town that don't use the Journal News and use a non-paid newspaper, but you need a paid subscription newspaper with broad circulation to technically qualify, and there's two opinions by the New York State Committee on Open Government on that. So that's why it's a more expensive newspaper. They charge hundreds of dollars every time we print something, but it's what you got to do. So I'll make that motion if somebody hasn't.
Okay. Dennis, and someone second it?
Second.
Okay, I'll poll the board. Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes all along, motion carries. Okay, depository bank. Chase Manhattan Bank has been our depository bank as long as I've been on the board. Large money center bank, excellent reputation, doing a fine job. I make a motion that we continue to use Chase as our depository.
Second.
Okay, so me, Dennis, poll the board. Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dennis, aye. And Tom, aye. Okay, motion carries. All right. Now we're going to go back. The next appointment is Fire District Council. We've been using Coughlin and Gerhardt since 2007, and they became our general counsel in 2013. Coughlin and Gerhardt is based in Binghamton, New York, and has been around since 1890. They consistently receive accolades as being one of the top municipal law firms in the state with emphasis on labor and employment law. They are expert litigators. So, I am proposing, or I will propose shortly, that we reappoint Coughlin and Gerhardt as our attorneys. But first, I just want to touch on something. For those of you who have been watching at home, in September 2017, we announced in a board meeting that Coughlin and Gerhardt wanted to resign as general counsel, expressing that they did not feel that they could effectively act as general counsel because of conflicts among board members. They felt they were being put in an untenable situation by the board. Specifically, any advice they provided was likely to alienate a section of the board. To effectively perform their jobs, C&G's attorneys need a good working relationship with all board members. Since they sent us that letter, the board has basically instituted some reforms and intends to institute additional reforms. Their biggest issue, and the one that we have not addressed yet, but which we intend to address and will speak more of in the regular meeting later on, is impaneling an ethics board, which is called for in our Code of Ethics. And in fact, C&G's proposal, their retainer for this year, specifically outlines that conditional upon them serving the district, again, as general counsel, depends on us impaneling that ethics board. I believe that everyone on the board wants to do this. We've discussed it, and I really kind of, I think it's something that's overdue, and something that we will do, and we'll continue to use C&G, who I think is a top firm. So at this point, I'll open it up to discussion if anybody wants to add anything else.
Yeah, my point on this issue would be, on August 31st, the board passed a resolution that basically they appointed a point of contact for the legal firm, and that point of contact would be Mr. Incledon. Prior to that, all legal matters, pretty much the board had unfettered access. Anybody could call the attorneys and ask a question if you had a question or a concern, and they would respond back, and they wouldn't keep you on the phone for an hour or two answering your question. They'd be very crisp and hang up and not drag things out. At least they were with me. And I think they did that with other people as well. I happen to think they're quite a good law firm. But we passed this resolution of the board to restrict all communications outside of a meeting, really between Mr. Incledon and these lawyers. And there's like 5 lawyers there I deal with when we were dealing with cases. We had a number of cases that were pending. We had the hydrant case with the town of Eastchester. We had the volunteer case where we had a court order to produce documents that the volunteers weren't producing. And we had 2 board members who were actively involved, not actively, they shouldn't say they were actively involved, that's not fair. We had 2 board members who you might want to think shouldn't be voting on on those issues. And this resolution got passed 3-2 with the help of those two board members, where I was excluded, or Mr. Baker, who was a lawyer, was excluded from talking to the attorneys, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me that you would pass a resolution to have somebody who has communicated with the board for almost 10 years with the law firm since they got on board, that you would just exclude that person from talking to them overnight when you had two active cases. And most of the litigation that was ever submitted, I would either read or proofread. The board had an opportunity to do so, but I spent a lot of time reading these documents and I'm quite familiar with all the cases. So to me, it wasn't proper that that happened, and I did raise that issue with Colin and Gerhardt that I thought it wasn't fair. So that did happen, and so I think that was part of the Colin and Gerhardt pushback. Other than that, I like the law firm. I don't like the resolution this board passed in August. I think somebody like Mr. Roach is new to the board, and he has a question about town law or public offices law or general municipal law or PESH issues or employment issues. He shouldn't have to reach out to Mr. Incledon and ask him if it's okay to ask the question. He should be able to just pick up the phone and call one of the lawyers at Colin and Gerhardt that specialize in this, in all different aspects of the law, because they have a number of lawyers that handle different matters. So I just think the resolution itself did a giant disservice to the board, and that's my view. And that's where the rub came in with Colin and Gerhardt and the board passing that resolution.
A couple of things I want to say about this. The first thing is, the resolution that was passed puts parameters on board members contacting our attorneys. So it is a board member contacting the attorneys. Had no impact at all on our attorneys contacting any board member, and they were free to do so if the board member's input was essential to any litigation or any matter they were working on. And they have clearly stated that they never hesitated to contact anyone. It also exempted any commissioner who is a named party in a lawsuit, and we are facing one of those. If he is calling about that case, he can unilaterally call Coughlin and Gerhardt. So there's no restrictions on that. What the point of contact motion did do is provided authority to contact, that anyone who was going to contact counsel had to get the authority of the point of contact, who the board nominated me to be the point of contact, or authority from the board at large. In the 2 weeks after we passed that motion, not one commissioner asked to contact our lawyers, and subsequently, that authority was never denied because it was never asked. 2 weeks after the point of contact motion was passed, due to concerns that Dennis raised, I blanketly lifted the restriction on contacting our attorneys. So literally within 2 weeks after, no one asked to contact the attorneys, and 2 weeks later, and it's still in effect today, anyone on this board has free rein to contact the attorneys for any reason whatsoever, and they have. So, the motion was passed. I don't want to spend too much time on this in this meeting because we do have another meeting that's going to be starting shortly. We can get more into this discussion, but I feel that motion has not impacted the legal services that we have received from Coughlin and Gerhardt one bit. And so, anyway.
We shouldn't go into this now, but we should just rescind the motion and move on with life if it really has no impact.
So, anyway, to continue, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Coughlin and Gerhardt, LLP, 99 Corporate Drive, Binghamton, New York, as Fire District Counsel for the year 2018 under the terms and fees outlined in the retainer agreement dated December 20th, 2017. The terms of this agreement are identical to last year with one exception. The district acknowledges that matters requiring a legal opinion on ethical issues and conflicts of interest of a fire commissioner will be handled under the district's code of ethics and referred to outside ethics counsel as needed. I'll make that motion. Does anyone want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. I'll poll the board. Stu?
Yes.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dennis?
I'm going to say no, just because the resolution is still out there, and while the resolution is still out there, I don't think it's fair. So,
Tom?
no.
Aye.
Okay. So that was basically all that was on the reorg agenda. There is going to be public and board comment in the regular meeting that's going to start later this evening. The board's going to convene again at 8:45 for its regular January meeting. We're going to immediately go into executive session. We don't anticipate coming out for at least a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. At that point, there'll be time for public comment, board comment. So for now, I'd like to make a motion to close the reorganization meeting.
Just
I'll
before
make
you
the-
do that, Reverend Maiello just stepped in, and we should say hello to Mr. Reverend Maiello. Reverend Maiello, thank you for volunteering another years of service for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also recognize Councilman Joe Dooley. Want me to do it?
Yeah.
I just also want to recognize Councilman Joe Dooley sitting in the back. Joe, thank you for coming.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Motion to close the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Stu?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Aye.
Dennis? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.